So, Janice, I will ask everyone to mute themselves. And unlike some other things, there's no sort of expected time thing here where it needs to be a certain.
Oh,
Now, I will say this: chances are an hour story is too long, right?
but I thought it was 7 minutes. So
Some of my other events tend to revolve around the 7 minute mark, but for us, given how who's here, don't sweat it.
okay,
All right, and I'm looking forward to it.
okay. So in that case, I'll do a preview of my. I'll just give you an intro to my solo show. Just
Whatever
some,
you want to do. And are we? And you're okay with us if anyone's curious to learn more about it, just to ask you about it.
that would help me to kind of like shape it more.
All right. If you're open to that, we'll do it. All right.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Uh, mm, it's 1997, and I am in the living room, and this woman is sitting next to me, and she's telling me that she's there to help me. I don't remember calling her. I don't remember anything. And the only thing I know is that the next thing I knew, it was blackout. Next thing I know, I'm waking up and I'm in St. Joseph Hospital in the psychiatric ward in Paterson, New Jersey. I don't know how I got there. I don't know when I got there. And most of all, I don't even know why I'm there. I'm walking around trying to figure out, how did I get here? And as I'm walking in the day room, I have people calling me from different names. What? You know? So I walk up to this one of the patients, and his hair is all cut up like, like a bad haircut. And he's looked at me, he calls me Carmen. And I looked at him and I said, Carmen, why are you calling me Carmen? He says, well, I hope you're Carmen because I like her because I like the way she curses in Spanish. So I went, So I said, wait a minute, I got to talk. So I go to the nurse, calls me, and she calls me by the name of Nicole. So I said, excuse me, why are you calling me Nicole? She said, well, that's what you gave me. And I said, well, I just got here. How do you know? She said, no, you've been here for a week. I said, a week? And she said, well, you know how you got here? I said, no, I don't know how I got here. I just know I'm here. So she says, well, what do you think is what's going on? I said, I don't know. I said, I just know that I got a husband, I got kids, I got a dog, I'm going to school. I'm also on a professional dance company. I said, maybe I just got carried away and it just got too much on me. I don't know what's going on. And I said, well, listen, and she said, well, Nicole. I said, I'm not Nicole. Why you keep calling me Nicole? I'm Janice. She said, well, the doctor will be here. Okay. About a few hours later, a doctor comes. She's a female and she's an intern from Iran. And she has some Muslim garbs on. I said, oh, shoot, okay, what's going on here? Okay. And she tells me, then she says, who are you today? I said, excuse me? She said, who are you? I said, why is everybody telling me who I am? I'm Janice. So she says, come follow me. And we go into the room and she sits me down. She puts in front of me a pile of drawing that looks like it was done by a child. And I'm looking at them. And there was one particular drawing, which was a drawing of skeletons that had the form of devils. And they were all on the beach. And they were on the ocean. Some of them was in the ocean, just with pig fronts, just, standing there. And there was one looking directly at the viewer with a pitchfork. And I said, whoa, I don't know who did this, but this is really scary, So she sits down and she puts her hand on me. She leans very motherly. And she says, um, I think you have multi-personality disorder. I said, wait a minute, wait a minute. Are you talking about Sybil? I saw the movie, okay? That's with Sally Field, okay? Are you telling me that I have personalities that I don't know about? Okay, I said, well, listen, Sally Field or Sybil was white. Her mother fucked her ass up. I don't know anything about that, okay? That didn't happen to me. Then she just gently looked at me. She says, because of your age, there is no outpatient that would help you. That you might have to admit yourself to a psychiatric ward. And I said, wait a minute. Okay. I'm going on. I said, I don't think so. But just for curiosity, how long would it take? Because I'm thinking in my mind, maybe 2-week vacation. Okay. She said, well, I don't know. It might be years. Okay. You need psychotherapy and medication. And next thing I know, she said, here's a prescription and here's a letter with my diagnosis. And she gets up and walks out. Blackout. I don't remember leaving the hospital. I don't remember going home. I don't remember nothing. Next thing I know, that my memory is that I was a mental health player for Clifton Mental Health. And basically that is we go around the neighborhood or communities enacting scenarios for discussion. And I just went to speak to my my director by name of Penny. And I just said, just I'm gonna give her my experience. I told her. And I'm thinking she's gonna say, oh, that woman don't know what she's talking about. Next thing I know, she throws her hands up in the air and she said, no wonder. And I look at, she said, now I understand the different names, the different clothes. I just thought you was a method actress. And I said to myself, does everybody know that I'm mentally ill except me? So she said, I know. She said, I know that there's no outpatients, but I have a lady, a psychiatrist that will help you. The next thing I knew, I was walking into Barnett Hospital Children Ward. And there I met the receptionist. She she leads me to a door. The psychiatrist by the name of Miss Feinberg, I think, opens the door and she says to me, I can't help you merge your personalities together, but I can help you find them. Thank you.
Awesome, Janice. Thank you so much for that. That's part of a larger piece for a solo show.
Yeah, it has sound effects and everything, but I gave you a little short version.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. But a little taste of the solo show. But the solo show is centered on that experience that you just shared with us, sort of a
It centers on my journey in finding the different parts of my personalities to finally, because the real reality is they think mental illness is really a stigma, but in my case, I looked at it. It was my way of surviving. That it was my other personality saved me. They
get that.
saved me. They saved me.
There's a reason why those things
Yeah.
often develop. It's not random and arbitrary. You're dealing with life.
Yeah,
Presumably something hard stuff.
and yes, so it's my journey into my discovering of my other selves and a celebration of them.
Wow. That's amazing because I don't think, well, I know from my own experience, I don't see that often where it's, from what you're saying, like celebrating the other parts of yourself. Well, I don't know if I'm phrasing that correctly, so forgive me if I'm not. That's cool. That's cool. I'm brave. Thank you for that. Yeah. Hmm. If you guys want to unmute, if you have any questions, uh, ask away. It's sort of a loose, small group.
It's all right.
No. No rush here. People,
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was really powerful, Janice, and I appreciate that you shared it with us. I've heard some of the other stories, shows that more curated shows that Sean's produced on mental illness, and I don't believe I've heard a story of the multiple personality,
right.
and it's quite rare, I believe. I've never even in my, just in my contacts, work and whatever throughout life, I don't think I've ever met anybody that had that. And so that's really interesting because it's, um,
Or that you knew had that, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your bravery. It's a brave thing to tell, and such power in it. And it's genuinely humbling that you got that kind of courage. That's amazing.
My other personality didn't let me feel, so I have to give them the credit. They're the ones who, they're the ones who, they're the ones who remembered the nightmares and held it away from me. They're the ones who protected me, So, it's interesting that when I first realized, when I first learned, I was terrified. I was terrified. I knew that I suffered from blackouts all my life, but I just thought maybe it was just my personality. And as I got over and I was self-medicating, I thought that maybe it was part of a flashback. But for me, I thank them. I thank them. I am not fully, I'm not fully emerged. What I have learned is we have learned to live together.
Mm.
Janice, I assume part of the reason you're putting all the work into sharing this stuff is to educate or inform.
Yeah,
So is that right?
yeah.
So given that, are you okay with me asking a question? Because I know so little about that. And I think the little I know about it is probably influenced by the movie Sybil, and which is an old movie, or maybe another movie or TV show that came across my screen at some point. And for somebody that knows very little, what, can you add a little more about what it's like? Yeah, I'm just curious to know what it's like to live with that.
Live with it now.
Yeah, and let's say, for example, I was your friend and I lived in the same town and I saw you fairly often to get coffee or watch a movie, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Would I? And if you don't like my question, just say no go, Sean. But I'm not trying to be rude at all. I'm really just.
I know, I know when
Yeah.
you discuss about when you talk about mental illness, people get
Yeah.
very apprehensive. Um, for me, I have a multitude of voices. I had like 11 personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are still some fragments that have not merged, and
And
they
what
do
does
have.
that mean, Janice? When you say
What that means is that I am aware. I am aware of my other personality. I have I have conversation in my head. Okay.
mm-hmm.
Like I'm having a conversation with you. And I know it's my other parts. I
Right.
know it. I know it. But we communicate with each other. It's like I always have a party in my head. I call it a party. Um, the parts that minds that are not merged, that I call them like ghosts, they do have a voice, and you might hear me just blurt out something, and I gotta go. That's one of my personalities coming out.
Right.
You see, so
Okay.
I've been living like I've been living with them for a while, that they're part of me. I have to be really certain sounds or smell triggers memory. Now the reason why I don't have them merge is because when they try to help me merge it, I would actually go into convulsion because the trauma is too intense for me to really try to relive it. It's just too much.
Got it.
So I can't tell you certain parts of my life because that is part of my other personalities. And my other personalities don't want to talk about that because it's too
Right.
traumatic. You know?
Right. Yeah.
So we just coexist with it, my mind.
I can't imagine what it's like and how that would impact your life. Just going to work, dating someone, dealing
Well,
with friends, and like, especially if people don't know. I mean,
well,
the likelihood of you skating through all that without them ever knowing seems pretty low.
yeah, well, Sean, it's this way. If like my Carmen is the dancer, so she comes out and dance.
Got it.
I watch her. Susan is the actress. Okay. Let's see. So they'll come out and I'll let them and I'll watch them.
Got it.
And
But
we work. We
it's
we have like a partnership, you know.
yeah,
And yes, there's sometimes where, um, and they're the ones who keep me going. I say, I don't want to do it. And they say, yes, you got to do it, Janice. Yes, you got to do it. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you know, and they'll physically show me. Um, if it gets to the point that it gets so overwhelming, I have physical. You call it anxiety attacks, but it's basically they're talking to me, say, yeah, pay attention. Um, Sometimes my eyes would get blurry. My heart, like I'm going to have a heart panic attack, but that's their way of saying, listen, you're not listening to me.
Well, I think it's so interesting because I would imagine people that are dealing with this the way you're like, we don't get to hear these stories very often. I'm guessing either people are not in a position to ever share it, whether they don't want to or they just can't. And I don't certainly don't know like data numbers, but I'm imagining that I don't know. I'm going to throw it out there. I'm imagining that the suicide rate is quite high.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but
And we don't get
yeah,
the chance to talk to people who deal with it ever.
well, for me, I'm going to be honest with you. Susan tried to kill herself when she was about 6 years old.
What does
So
that mean? What does that mean? But that means you would have died.
yeah, well, so I didn't understand. Like I said, I don't remember much, but she told me she tried to kill herself when she was 6. So my multi-personality started at a very, very, very young age.
Yeah.
Very young age. It goes back really. I can't tell you my childhood. I can't tell you when I went to school. I can't. Okay, I don't remember certain life experience with family. I can't tell you. I can't.
Right.
I don't remember. I
Hmm.
do remember that when I was in the 2nd grade, I remember waking up in the classroom and I don't know, something about somebody dying. And that's the last thing I remember. I can't tell you what I did in school. Can't tell you high school. It was just certain, like it's like pieces,
Yeah.
like pieces. That I know, I
Yeah.
know, that I'm aware of. There's a lot in there that I don't know.
Do you have any questions for anyone here about the actual story that you shared? And our sort of, well, I don't know if you'd call it feedback or just the way it resonated with us or.
Yeah, I thank you. I don't see myself as being brave. I see myself as a fighter and the will for us to live. I think that's what it is. The power of the power of it started when I was a child, and I think the power of imagination to create your own reality. I think that's basically what it is, that we had to create this just to survive.
Right.
And so I know it's something, I know it took me a long time to say, yes, I have multi-personalities,
Sure.
and people pick it up because they'll say, girl, you this way, you that way, you was this, you got way, they was like, girl, you unique, and basically it's just, sometimes let's say, Nicole wants to dress a certain way, I gotta do it. Like I said, Susan wants to dance, I gotta dance, so she'll, she'll come out and make my life, So, but my question to you was, I clear enough to kind of introduce to you multi-personality, was
In
that,
the story, in the story,
yeah.
what do you all think?
There's something that you feel that I could have, well, I only try to keep it at 10 minutes, so.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, we're limited, right, when it's short like that. So but the main thing you're asking is, was it clear enough so that we got a sense of it,
Yes,
and maybe even would want to hear more, given that it's connected to a larger piece?
yeah.
What do y'all?
I think so. Yes, I was intrigued. Until you talked to the doctor, I wasn't really quite sure. I thought, because you say that you're in a mental ward, I think maybe the guy who thinks you're Carmen and swearing Carmen, maybe it's his mental illness, not your mental illness. So the way that it got revealed, I felt was really good. And then that's intriguing to find out more. And I did, and in my mind, I thought, I wonder if there are more personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you do have a good beginning.
Nice.
Agreed. I think your timing is on point in terms of the slow revelations, and then finally it's revealed. You had a really good sense of tension there, and it made me lean in and pay attention. So what's exactly happening here? I've got to pay attention because there's clues. She's not saying this without reason. And at the time that you hit the reveal, it's abundantly clear. I really like how you paced this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks again for sharing that, Janice.
One last thing, I work as a special service teacher, and many of my cases are children with mental illness. I have been, they always give it to me, but they don't know why I'm so good at it.
Got it. That's cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Definitely. Definitely. I don't think anybody's going to be rushing to follow that.
Please.
What's that,
Please.
Janice?
No, please, please, please.
Corey, what are you thinking right now?
I'm thinking about do I have anything? I got nothing. I got nothing.
Nothing?
Hard act to follow.
Oh, no.
No.
You're fine. It's like whoever's gonna be the next coach at Duke, they've got to follow Coach K.
No. I was going to tell you about a story about one of my students that really was a revelation. But I thank you for letting me share this and get feedback.
Sure. Yeah. Are you on Facebook, Janice?
Yes.
All right, I'll find you, and so you can be in the little bubble that I've created here. So maybe if you want to do more of this stuff and get feedback.
Oh, thank you.
Other stuff that's got a good community.
Yeah, one of the things that I share, what I'm very proud of myself is that I do get very difficult cases of children that have not been diagnosed and have been put in very grave situation because people don't want to take the time to find out what's going on with them. And I have been blessed that I have had many cases where I was able to touch, children. I have had kids with schizophrenic, bipolar. I even had a kid that was multi-personality, and nobody knew that. And
Right.
and I was able to, not to show them, but I was able to put her in a situation where she revealed herself and was able to get the proper help. Other than that, many kids are diagnosed as being what they call it, behavior problems, defiant, um, um, parents can't, poor parenting. I have had parents that have been put under DIFAs and police because, yeah, it's just because nobody took and the mental health system is so bad. You know, they talk about it, but there's really no really easy way to get help.
Right.
There isn't. I was lucky, like I said, I had someone who said to me, "I will help you."
Yeah,
If
yeah.
if she didn't say that, I would probably be in a mental institution right now.
Maybe, yeah.
I,
That's sometimes the difference right there. Yeah.
I wanted to kind of chime in. I'm always so grateful to people who will share their stories like this, because I think a lot of people are walking around in pain, pretending not to be in pain because they think they're the only one. And you find out, if you're listening and if people are able to share, you find out that a lot of people are struggling, and they aren't the only one, and you're not the only one. And I also think, like, if a child were limping, we'd say, oh, we need to take him to the doctor, find out what's wrong with his leg. Or if they were, drinking a whole lot of water and tired all the time, we think, oh, I wonder if they have diabetes, let's get them to a doctor. But when it comes to mental health problems, we think they're bad kids. We don't think to ask ourselves, is this something more than just a naughty kid? Is this got a diagnosable problem? And we don't want to hear about it. People, I had a close relative deny for a long time that his child was autistic because he didn't want to admit it. And it's like, what a waste of an opportunity to make his life better. So anyway, that's a rant, but I thank you for sharing that. It helps all of us.
I feel like this is a good place to rant tonight.
But also, Kat, what it is too, a lot of is cultural, but a lot of parents, like my parent, thought that I was just a waste of time, but they were part of the problem, But parents don't want, like you said, I have had many students that when I said to them, did you think about taking them for counseling? It was like, how dare you? There's nothing wrong. He don't want to listen, it's always the behavior. Or what happens, they go to the doctor and they get like Lithium or some kind of sedative, And so I am very happy when right now, because of COVID-19, I haven't been doing home instruction. But I always tell them, give me the hard cases. Give me those kids that nobody wants, and I'll take them.
I have a question for, I suppose, Janice and Corey, which is it, I don't know if I want to frame this thing, is it true? But friends of mine, Black friends, all of them have said the African-American community tends to be a little bit with mental health. Now, and that's very broad, I realize, but just a little bit like,
I'm Latina.
Okay, my bad. I just revealed my whiteness.
But that means I'm mixed, Sean. We're very mixed. That's right. There's a whole lot.
Maybe in the Hispanic community too. I'm just curious because
in the Spanish community, is very religious, very superstitious. So if a mental illness looks at like you got the devil, there's a devil in you.
Right.
There's a devil in you. They could write. You right, Corey? You got the devil in you. You better go to church and pray, And many of they resort to drugs, self-medication.
Sure.
Very hard and it's also in Latina. We look at it as it's worse than being gay.
So I assume being gay is often not
gay. They'll accept gay. They don't want gay, but if it had to be gay and mental illness, they'll take the gay.
Wow. Which of course only exacerbates whatever problem someone's dealing with tenfold. Corey, were you going to say something?
Well, I think on the African American side, some of that's generational. And it's a lack of trust in the mental health system. There's a profound lack of Black therapists, and even to the degree Latino or Latinx therapists as well. And I have to say it, and this may sound bigoted, there are a lot of white therapists that have no idea what it's like to be a person of color.
Sure.
And that's a problem if I'm talking about issues of race and culture and you're not versed in my race or my culture, and you have a therapist who is suggesting that you move toward assimilation and be, for want of a better phrase, whiter. And no, my whole experience, life, and background isn't that way. So all of a sudden, I've got someone who's supposed to be listening and helping who doesn't understand me.
Yeah. Yeah. It also sounds like they don't even know that they don't know, or don't care that they don't know.
Yes, that is true too.
Yeah.
Well, there is a lot of racism, and it's a lot of preconception and stereotypical. So, first thing, if they'll say if I come in, I'm on drugs, I'm using drugs, or I'm just being sassy, being sassy. So yeah, like I said, it took me about 30 years to get myself together. This wasn't overnight. It took me about 30 years. 30 years. And that was not the first time I was in a psychiatric ward. I've been in psychiatric wards before. And they just gave me medication that I just remembered, but just a lot of medication, go home. It was this Muslim lady from Iran, not an American. She was doing her residency, and she's the one that said, you have this. Other than that, it was
Wow. Well, it's good. These stories and then subsequent conversations, I think, are really helpful for people. Hi, Dan Boyd. How are you, sir? I don't know if we've ever met, but I see you. If you want to say hi and unmute yourself, by all means, do that. No pressure either way. All good. Thanks for being here, man. Dan was like, I don't even want you to see me. I'm done. Fair enough. Fair enough.
You do your thing, Dan.
You do your thing. Miss Kat Dean is open to sharing a story, which I appreciate. And yeah, you down with that, Kat?
Yeah. Am I on mute?
And then, are you okay? Can we grill you? Not really grill you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If I don't like the question, I will.
Oh yeah, just say I don't want to answer it. You're good.
Yeah.
All
right. And this is not something I've formed much yet, so it's just.
Yeah, cool.
I'll wing it. So I'm walking across the campus of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on my way to a French class. I'm 22 years old, and it's an absolutely beautiful day outside, but I can feel the panic starting to rise in my chest. I can feel that my heart is starting to race, and my ears are starting to ring, and I'm starting to have trouble breathing. And I know a panic attack is on the way, a full-fledged panic attack. What I want to do is I want to turn around and run back to my dorm or run and hide somewhere. But I think to myself, I can do it. I can do this. I can do this. And I think that I have everything I need in my backpack to be okay. And I continue walking up the stairs to my class, and I sit down and I'm okay. But that's not how it was yesterday. Yesterday, 24 hours earlier, on an equally beautiful day, I was sitting on one of the stone walls that lines the university in full-fledged meltdown. I had absolutely, completely lost my mind. I couldn't think a thought. I couldn't communicate. My heart was pounding, and I was almost positive I was about to die, or maybe even something worse than die. Maybe I was just going to lose my soul, and that's definitely worse than dying. And I'd never get it back. And I'm sitting there, absolutely frozen in action, with inaction. And a friend of mine walks up, Keith walks up, and he says, "Hey, Kat, what are you doing?" And I didn't say anything. I just shook my head. And he sat down and said, "What's up, Kat?" And I said, "I'm freaking out. I can't go home. I can't go home. I don't know how to get home." And he understood something was going on. And he said, "Well, I'll go back to your dorm with you." And he linked his arm in mine and said, "Don't worry, I'll be the one to see to you get there safely." And we walked back to my dorm, and I sat down on my bed, and he said, "I'll come back and check on you after class. You just stay here." And he leaves, and I'm sitting there, and I think, I can't live like this anymore. I hadn't been to class in 2 weeks, because every time I came within 10 feet of one of the buildings my classes were in, I'd start a complete meltdown, and I'd end up running back to my dorm. And I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't live like this anymore. And so I decided the best thing to do would be to quit school. I could quit. And in fact, I thought, right this minute, I could make my way to the registrar's office, and I could get the paperwork required for me to quit and be done with this. And then maybe find some place to crawl where I didn't have to feel anything at all. Happy, sad, nothing, just no feelings. And so it took me about 2 hours of walking and stopping and sitting on these stone walls to get to the registrar's office. And I finally do, and I get the paperwork, and I take it back to my room, and I fill it out. And I'm sitting there with these filled out paperwork, and I realize I feel more in charge right now. I feel like, knowing I've made a decision to give up, it made me feel like I wasn't melting down. And I thought what I would do tomorrow is, instead of take them straight back to the registrar's office, I'd try a class, see what happened. But it was okay, because any time I felt the first hint of panic, all I had to do was take these in. It was all done. And so I put the papers in my backpack. I went to bed, slept the day away, slept the night away, and then woke up early to go to my first class. Because I know rushing is one of the things that can trigger a panic attack. So I made sure I had all morning to get there. And I got almost to one of these stone walls, and I started to feel it. My heart was starting to race. My ears were starting to ring. And I said, "No, it's okay. I got these papers. Anytime this starts to get out of control, I just quit. I'll be fine. Go on to that class, and you can sit there and not listen to the teacher or anything. You can just sit there." That alone would have been an accomplishment, and I did. I sat there in the class, and it was a French class, and the professor started speaking French, and I realized her voice was not making me want to scream. I wasn't falling apart. And if I did start to fall apart, I knew what to do. And I spent the rest of that semester with that paperwork ready for my signature in my backpack, ready to run at any moment. And knowing that I had that freedom helped me regain control every time I started to fly apart. And I never did sign those papers, and I did make it.
Good story, Kat.
Boom.
Wow.
Kat shared a few stories that all sort of seem to center a lot on anxiety. Yeah.
My devil.
Yeah. So and that's also like, because we use that, it's so interesting the words we use, right? We use the word anxious. And that's linguistically, I guess, the adjective of anxiety, but we use it so much more like loosely, like I'm anxious. And I think I'm sort of just vomiting right now information, but it just feels like that's one reason people don't get kind of what anxiety feels like for some. It's so tricky. And
I think that most people suffer from that, when the things that most people feel hit a point where it is making life harder to live is when it turns into mental illness. I mean, I'm sure everybody feels down or depressed sometimes, but is it making your life unlivable? And I think a lot of people will, have something bad happen and feel their heart racing and all that, but is it making your life unlivable?
Right.
And that's where
Right.
it starts to segue into
That's
a mental health problem. I have an anxiety disorder, and it's strangely not triggered by actual anxiety inducing events. I'll get on stage and not have not have a panic attack, but I can have a panic attack planning a picnic.
Wow.
And I've gone ziplining and didn't feel scared or out of control, and then felt out of control walking across the campus. So,
How do you define the, you use the word panic attack, and then people use the word, I'm asking you as sort of the expert through like your own experience, lived experience. I know you're not a doctor, but do you think people say panic attack and anxiety attack sometimes synonymously? Because I know my stuff, when I've had what I think is anxiety attacks, they don't feel panicky at all, in that my heart isn't racing. The world isn't spinning. The floor isn't dropping. I feel this bizarre and truly unique sense of dread. I cannot put words to it. So when I talk about it, it's not panic attack. I don't know if I'm using the wrong words. I feel like I'm panicking. It's like I'm going to fucking die. Like it's a weird Harry Potter dread thing. So I just like to ask people what the words they use, and because I don't know, the feelings behind them can be so hard to put into words. So anyway, I'm doing it again.
is that a question? I mean,
Not really.
no, I'm not joking. I mean, it's like, I kind of use them interchangeably, like as in, it's a whole big thing that balls up. Because when you say the dread, that is totally it. It's not, when I say I'm afraid I'm going to die, it's not like die like people die. I'm afraid that like I'm going to lose my soul somehow. I'm never
Right.
back.
Oh man. Yeah, it's so bizarre. And if you've never experienced it, you can't put words to, I certainly can't put words to it in a way that comes close for someone, because I, much of my life, didn't have it. There's no way anything you could have said to me would have prepared me for what that feels like. It's so weird. So fortunate for, it's been years since I had that kind of panic attack or anxiety attack. Hell, I would carry my meds with me, man, just in case. Because like if I was teaching and I got hit with something, I'm like, I don't know. I would just go to the bathroom and take a couple pills, and it would help ebb it a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you, Kat. There's something that you said in your story that was very empowering. You said, I made a choice.
Yeah.
I made a choice. That's powerful. Because you said, I will not let this define me. I will not let my sickness define me. I will not let my sickness define me. And it was a powerful moment. You said I had a choice. And I can relate to that. Because it took me a long time I thought that I was just a basket case. And it was the time also, I know what you're saying about a panic attack. And you're right, it's not like you're going to die, but it feels like that you're something evil.
Yeah.
Something evil that's eating you up. And it's so unbearable. It's so unbearable. The only thing you want to do is go crawl in a hole and
There's nowhere to go, Janice. For
yeah,
me.
I know. But I used to find myself in places that I had no business being, But I know what you mean. But thank you. Yes. And people don't understand that. People don't understand. They think that you're not strong enough. You're weak-minded, and it's not that. It is just something that you have to endure. And
Kat, sorry.
No, you do learn. You learn. I mean, now when I start to feel the inklings of it, I know what it is, and I know it's like, oh yeah, I can, I'll like realize, oh, I forgot my keys, and I'll start that moment of, well, and I'm like, no, I know what it is. I know what that is, and it doesn't, because I know what it is. It doesn't have the power it used to be. It used to. I mean, I still get pretty nutso sometimes, but I don't freak out like I did then because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have episode of blackouts, but then I know that I need to there's something that I'm stressing myself, that I need to slow down. That's one thing about having mental illness, that you got to learn how to pace yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you, listen, you're moving too fast, or you're overwhelming your senses, or you're doing something. And I actually have to put myself on timeout. I said, no,
Right.
we're on timeout. So we'll sit down and eat pizza and look at reruns, or maybe I need to go to sleep. But I know that for me also, I can't work a stressful job. It's interesting, even though I'm an EMT, I regulate my time. When it gets to the point, I know I have the freedom and the choice to say I'm not going to work. And my jobs have, once I learned that I could not work a 9 to 5, I can't, or I will, I would, so I know that I have to learn that I need jobs that I can make a living, but also have the freedom that when it hits me, I can't go to work.
Corey or Mary Jo, do you? I don't want to put you on the spot. I guess I sort of am. I'm just curious how anxiety, I suppose would be the operative word, impacts you, or if you know people and you're experiencing with their struggles with that.
I know people. I have children who feel this. I don't. I work really hard to try to understand it and to empathize it with that. But things that make normal people nervous don't make me nervous at all. And like getting up in front of people and talking and things like that, it's normal. It's I don't have that fear behavior. I don't have that fear behavior or that fear response in most situations. So for me, it's just whenever I hear things like this, it's a reminder for me to listen first and be open-minded and have an open heart.
If more people were like you, man. Yeah. Something. Because it's very easy. I just think it's easy for people who are from what it sounds like, the spot you're in, to sort of dismiss it maybe, or judge it maybe, or it's just not your world. And I think it's there's something to be said for, yeah. MJ, what about you? Oh, sorry, Cap.
I was going to say, I understand what you're saying. I feel like that about people who get depressed. I mean, I'm not judging, and I understand, but I don't have that problem. I don't tend to go into any kind of depression. So it's easy for me to go into, why are you just lying there? Why don't you get up and go do something? Why don't you get some exercise? Which I don't do because I cognitively know better. But that has in the past been my response to people who had depression, is to think, why don't you get up? Why are you just sitting there? I would never just sit there. Go take a shower. Why, and I've learned since then from hearing other people who suffer from depression, like, oh, okay, I don't understand that loss of inertia and energy. And I can't judge that. So that's how what you're saying about how you try and understand people with anxiety. That's how I feel about people with depression. It's like, I have to cognitively know.
Well, yes, I'm not trying to make myself out like I'm a superhero. I have fears of my own that some folks don't quite get. It's generational, and I think fears can indeed be passed generationally.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it wasn't a panic attack. It was, well, it could have been. I was dating a woman, and we were driving back from a Toastmasters event. I had a speech competition, and we were driving back, and we stopped in a smaller town, and my lady wanted to go get food. And we were going to a place that was a little bit off the beaten path. And all of a sudden, all of my survival instincts just went into overdrive. And I was trying to explain to her, she happens to be white, I don't know what's on the other side of that door.
Mm.
And
That's legit.
if you don't know what's on the other side of the door, there could be people who are triggered by an interracial couple.
Fuck yeah.
And if we go into a bar and it's like 48 hours, the music stops and everybody stops and turns, I have to look at that door as my back has to be up against that door because I'm fighting for my life, and I have to look for escape routes, and I have to look out for what I call threat assessments. Every person in the room, that she's not a threat, she's not a threat, he's a threat, he's definitely a threat, and if this happens, I'm going to go through him in order to get to my freedom. And if you've never been in that circumstance, I imagine, I have women friends who have talked about that after they've been assaulted. But if you don't understand that thinking, when you go to a place that you're unfamiliar with, you go through that door and you're like, here we go. And if everything's good, you feel all the adrenals just cool out. But if stuff goes sideways, I'm generally a kind-hearted person, but if I feel like I'm threatened, I will not hesitate to do my level best to tear you apart. And that's
survival, man.
Yeah. And I don't know whether what we're talking about in terms of mental health is all about survival or not.
You could argue.
So
yeah, I struggle with the term mental health. Not struggle, just what you're sharing there is part of the conversation, for sure. You know, it is. It's part of the conversation of, yeah.
Generally,
I'm stuck for words sometimes, but I just feel like it belongs in that, you know?
Generally, my white friends don't feel that.
Right.
And they only feel that if they go into a black bar. And
right.
The funny thing is like, I ask them all the time, like, how many times in your life are you going to go to a predominantly black bar? Maybe 10 times in your life?
Right.
And I say, and they were like, yeah, and it really felt uncomfortable. And I said, okay, that's my everyday.
Yep. Yeah.
And when they have that light bulb moment, that serendipitous moment where it's like, oh, geez, I get it. Sometimes our minds stay open for concepts like that, and other times they reflexively snap shut.
Yeah. You know, I think I might have shared this with a couple people here. I remember there's this play. It's a documentary play called Seven. It's the story of 7 women, real stories who just, you know, against the odds, did great things. Great. I actually produced and directed this play, right? And after each play, we had a talk back. And during one of the talkbacks, one of the actors, it just sort of came up because I was thinking I got it. Like, I understand the struggle. And these were all about women, so it was absurd for me to think that. But I'm the guy who's directing all of these women, so clearly I get something. And I remember one of the actors, she said to me, what do you think about when you leave your house every day? And I didn't understand her question. And I said, what do you mean? Well, what are you thinking about when you leave? I walked right into this. And I was like, I don't know. I'm thinking I got to unlock my car to get into it. I'm going to lock my door where I'm going. She says, yeah, I don't think about that. You know what I think about? And I don't remember her exact words. What is, am I safe? Never in my life did I feel like such a fucking idiot, number one. But I owned it for what it's worth. It really made me think differently. Like, now I don't know if every woman feels that way every moment leaving their house. They may not. I don't know her specific life experiences. Doesn't matter. It just made me think like, oh, every time I think I kind of get something, I'm so humbled. Like, oh, I don't really get shit because I truly am a white. I mean, I'm just one of the least marginalized demographics ever in the history of the world, arguably. So it's like, I'm okay with that. Just, yeah, I'm not going to know what that shit feels like.
That is something women feel. They may not feel that every minute of the day, every time they leave their house, but absolutely. I mean, a woman who is 6 feet tall is still, you know, just because she's female, less safe than you are. And it's just, right. It is just so like, You know, I didn't want my daughter to get her apartment on the first floor. I mean, it's just,
Right.
that's the reality you think of as a woman, you know. If you turn your back on your drink for a few minutes, you're like, I'm not drinking that, you know.
Right, right. Because
And I think most men, it would never have occurred to them
that's
to
the
do
thing.
any of those things.
Wouldn't occur.
Or
I
that
can count on one hand. Sorry, Mary Jo, go ahead.
put your keys in between your fingers if it's night and you're walking to your car from somewhere, in case they tell you to, in case somebody comes up on you, you can hurt them with your keys sticking out.
Right.
I've done that a gazillion times. I've gone shopping, you know, like been on my way home from somewhere and gone in the market, felt really uncomfortable about maybe somebody who's lurking around the place, and I've had somebody escort me to my car. I mean, you just don't mess around. If you feel unsafe, you do what you have to do to feel safe. I say that now, you know, the past 20 years or 25 years, with everybody having cell phones, or, you know, at least not currently, most people having cell phones, there is more of a safety net there.
Right.
Yeah. But I still, if I'm walking someplace and I see somebody who's you know, walking too slow, walking too fast or something, I definitely think, okay, what is my plan? You know, is there someplace, if not, if there's no place for me to go, where will I hit that I think will get me the most time to respond, you know? I mean, you think about that, and that's what you just always have done. So when there people were talking about, man, I hate, you know, COVID makes me have to watch for everybody being near me. It's like, women have been doing that since caveman time. We're always having to watch who's near us.
Unfortunately, I unfortunately, one of the things that I remembered was being gang raped when I was 8. Yeah. The girl that I was with, she was murdered. I don't know why they let me go, but they murdered her. What I share that is that what happens is that you see, no matter if they're white, black, or Chinese, for me, I don't care who they are, there is a sense of total panic fear for me, even now, you know, even now. And that's something, once you have experienced that, you live in like this combat stage. You're always ready to fight. You're always ready. And I think that's part of the anxiety of me. I don't care who they are, white, black, or Chinese. It just puts this war against, you know, for me to deal with that. And for men, I have to, what is it? For me, I really don't get close to men, you know what I'm saying? Because of that fear that was, or that trauma or that violence that I experienced, you know. So it had even now, I walk outside, I'm ready to fight, like what you said, Corey. I'm ready.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care. You could be the nicest looking kid, guy, and everything. I'm like, do I have to kill you?
I think I can count on one hand how many times I have felt like, oh fuck, I'm in the wrong neighborhood. This is not good. Maybe one hand in my life.
And
I walk around the world. I walk truly, guys. Gals and guys. I walk in the world with. I don't like. I'm not. My chest isn't out. I'm not like fuck you. I'm this white guy. But I don't fear because I kind of don't need to.
yeah,
Now, it doesn't mean I can't be isolated and random attack. That's not the point, right? And I've just a couple times in New York, I just felt weird. Once I was in Central America, I just, for the most part, I might have been in danger, didn't realize it, but I'm just kind of like, things are okay. I'm all right. I mean, it's just, so it's a different experience in the world.
Yeah, I say that's the white boy mentality.
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully I'm not a dick about it. I'm acknowledging.
I'm not a dick about it. It's just that
Yeah.
When you, like Corey and I can rate this because every day of our lives, we have to deal, as a woman, you have to deal with violence, sexual violence, but at the same time, you got to deal with race violence. It's constant. It's constant. It's just, and that also racism is a mental illness. You know, it is a mental illness to the person who is hating and the person that is receiving it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think especially, I don't know what it is to be Jewish. I don't know what it is to be, I couldn't even start saying I know what it is to be a Muslim. I don't know, you know, but I do understand the violence and the hate that's behind it. I can relate to it. We can do that. You know, I can say I understand. I feel the same way too. Um, also to again, it can develop mental illness. You know, to just, you might not be raped, but the fact of being a Black woman or a Hispanic woman or just being a woman, period. You know, we have that fear every time we see a shadow or a hallway or walking down a dark. I don't walk down no dark street anyway. No, I don't play that. Well, you know. Also, too.
Well, that's another thing that women think about that men probably don't. If you are parking your car somewhere and at night, you're running into the market or you're going to a restaurant or whatever, you park your car where it's light. If you're in a parking lot, you try to be as close to the building and under a light. I mean, you think about that. And like when Kat was talking about pacing, I'm always leery if somebody's pace is the same as mine.
You know,
I will change my pace deliberately. And if that other person's pace changes, then there better be a shop or someplace I can go into or whatever.
hi, Howard. You're
Hi,
muted. Howard is the other guy like me, older, not as good looking, but we are in the majority in many ways. Howard, this is loose. It's a bit of an experiment, but sort of sharing certain kinds of stories and using them as a jumping off point to conversation about things. So if you have a story and you want to share it, I'm certainly open to that. Would love to hear
That's
it.
okay. I need to go fairly shortly. I keep forgetting that 7 o'clock really means 6 o'clock. So
Right.
I've been here earlier, but I
Right.
just want to say it's important for men to understand what's being said right now. If I'm walking down the street and I'm coming up on a woman in front of me who's alone, and either my pace is faster, which I'm trying to get somewhere, I will say, hey, I'm coming up behind you. I'm not a crazy person. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just in a hurry. So you don't need to be afraid of me. Now, I know that in and of itself can create anxiety. I know that.
Could be a little creepy.
I'm sorry?
I said it could sound a little creepy.
But I just don't, I don't want to be a woman in front of me to feel like I pose a threat. And if they saw me, they'd know I don't probably pose a threat. But it's important to do as a white man, the things that you can do to bring down a level of tension in any situation. And because we are the dominant group in society.
Yeah.
And until we recognize that and recognize the obligations that come with that, we're suffering from mental illness and we're unwilling to deal with that mental illness. So, Kat, if I'm ever coming up behind you, or Mary Jo more likely, I will try to not pace my speed with yours, but if I do, I'll say, hey, Mary Jo, don't worry, it's just me. And, but really, we have an humorous.
Howard, I want to see you walk faster than me, motherfucker. I dare you. I dare you to try, Minnesota. Bring it.
I have kind of the 12-inch dance remix to the B-side to Howard's comment, right? So I'm 6'4", weigh about 250 pounds.
Jesus.
For most people, I'm their nightmare.
Right.
Just existing. And what I've come to realize in conversation with other Black men is that most of our life is spent trying to make white people feel comfortable.
Oh.
So that we're not threatening.
Jesus.
I mean, my boys are, my eldest son is 6'6". My twin boys who are at the now 19, almost 20 age are no longer cute. They're handsome and they're about 6 feet tall each. And there's a point, and I knew it in my own life, when I stopped being cute and became scary.
Fuck.
That's funny. My nephew is biracial, and it came time for him to get his driver's license, and my mother, who is white, tried to convince him not to, and I wasn't sure why. And I realized Mom's afraid that my 6 foot, my nephew's about 6'4", black appearing nephew was gonna scare a cop. And it had never, that was the first time I stepped out and felt what a black mother might feel, is to think, oh my God, somebody might mistake my beautiful, sweet 6'4" nephew for something scary, and they might kill him. And and I realized that my little old, his little old granny, that was her worst fear, was that she was going to lose her beautiful grandson because he was black. And that she never worried about any of my white nephews ever, because she didn't need to.
Yeah.
It's a different fear. And I went to a talk that Alan Page, who used to play for the Minnesota Vikings, and who was also Supreme Court Justice, talking about what it's like to be famous and black and get pulled over all the time for driving a nice car. And he's so big. He said,
He was just
put your hand on your steering wheel at the 10 to 2 and wait until they recognize who you are. And even if they don't, take nothing for granted. He said, I'm a Supreme Court Justice today and a football player. Doesn't stop. I still get harassed all the time for driving too nice a car and being black. And I don't think there's any way, Baldy, that you and I, not you.
No, you're totally.
We can't possibly understand,
No.
other than perhaps intellectually, what that's like. And the same
I
thing.
have been pulled over only because I fucked up.
Mhm.
And I will tell you that more times than not, it's not been that many times, I've had an attitude because I'm just annoyed at whatever it is, like myself, and fuck, and I'm anxious. And don't you have something fucking better to do? And there's no fucking way most black dudes would do that.
No,
I had that. Privilege is the word we use, but it's absolutely appropriate.
When we first moved here, we had what was called the 1991 Halloween snowstorm. We had 3 feet of snow. And I don't know, Mary Jo, if you were still here, but it was insane. And I was speeding across the Hennepin Avenue Bridge, which is a known speed trap. Because I was late picking up my daughter from after-school program, cop pulls me over and he starts to lecture me about, and I said, can you stop at the fucking lecture?
Right.
Pick up my daughter. Just give me a fucking ticket.
Right.
And
That's my
if
attitude.
I was black, I'd be dead now. I would probably be dead now or beaten to a pulp. And that, if anyone doesn't understand white privilege.
Right. I think that's the most obvious example is when we deal with cops. Usually. I was pulled over in Virginia, happened to be, doesn't really matter, not that long ago by a black cop. And I remember for the first time in my life, and this may not make any sense and it may not be fair, thinking, I'm going to be really careful right now. I'm going to do exactly what he wants me to do. I'm a little bit afraid. And I remember saying, I said this, and because I don't know what to say. I said, the thing that I need to get for you, I don't know if it was my license, whatever it was, is in the glove compartment. I said, I'm going into my glove compartment to get this document. Never in my wildest dreams would I have to even think about that. I remember that. And I don't think I'd have done it with a white cop. In fact, I know I wouldn't have. And it may not have been fair that I did it with a black cop. There was just this thinking of like, things are tense in general. And yeah, it's just also eye-opening. And I feel like an idiot for having to say that. Like,
Why would you feel
that? But I don't know how I really would have been aware of that. Maybe that's bullshit, but how would I have known?
We're all nearsighted to a certain degree, right? So we're nearsighted for the things that that personally affect us.
Right.
Until we start listening and using our other senses to hear how other people live, do we get the corrective lenses that help us see a little bit further out and give us some peripheral vision as well. But until we,
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind.
no, go ahead.
Well, I just flashed on when it's interesting that white men also maybe take like a little more. Well, I'm just going to tell you this story. I can't. But
You do
when
have a story.
That's a story.
when I was living in the Bay Area, my friends were visiting from the East Coast, and they're both white. The woman I've known each other since grade school, and we were going out to dinner in the Mission in San Francisco, which is, well, it's regentrified now, but at that time, it was, well, it was still a transitional, it's very diverse population of backgrounds and cultures. And so we walked by where we had, and there's never any parking. And so we had to walk like 5 blocks to get to the restaurant. And we're walking on the street, and there's a bunch of kids. I would say they were Black kids. I would say they were somewhere like 15 to 18 years old, like maybe high school kids. And they were hanging out on the sidewalk. And my friend's husband goes, "Oh, maybe we should cross the street." And she and I both just went, "No, they're just hanging out. They're just kids hanging out. What's your problem?" So I think sometimes people get a little more reactive. I mean, and he's a pretty liberal guy, but he had this thing like, these guys could hurt us. And she and I are both like, "Are you out of your mind?" So I just think the way everybody perceives things is a little.
I had I don't think he was a friend, a Black dude. I don't remember who he was. It's been a while. Don't remember the context. I remember him saying when he goes to a parking garage, and it's happened more than once. It doesn't seem like it's all the time, but it's happened sometimes. There's a woman walking in the garage, and he's the only other person there. He will wait and not like hide, like creepy hide, just wait, because he doesn't want her to think that he is any kind of threat. Like that's the default is she's gonna think I'm a threat. I don't want her to think that. I'm gonna do what I think, and so he'll just wait in the stair, whatever he needs to do. Never thought in my fucking mind in my million years would I think that. I have thought that as a man, I don't want someone to think I'm a threat, but I wouldn't go to such lengths.
Oh, geez.
Well, I would, yeah.
Her word. I mean,
I would assume I'm not a threat. I'm going to go to my car. You get in your car. I don't know. Maybe I'm a dick. I don't know.
No, you're not. You're just
white.
Well, that and see, I did the improv trick of yes and.
Yep. Work it, baby. Work it. It's good.
But it's the idea that we know who Emmett Till is, and the idea that even an infinitesimal thing like circumstance like a false accusation could be my death.
Right.
And that's when we've seen this over this last year, weaponized use of cell phones to call authorities over seemingly incidental infractions.
Right.
If the moment that we call the police or that the police are called in things that are no particular threat, we've already escalated up to we're on life or death. Everybody else around us may not be, but we're like, holy shit. I didn't think that going to the swimming pool was going to cause a problem. I didn't think that barbecuing in the wrong place was going to be a problem. I didn't think that walking or jogging was going to be this problem. Now, all of a sudden, this is escalated up. I do have to tell you that it takes its toll on you because you can't stay hyper vigilant all the time.
Right. Of course not. Which is why when you say what you've shared about your sort of general, it seems you're rather relaxed and calm, and I'm amazed. Because I don't know how you deal with the world, and it is somewhat hypervigilant, but yet that doesn't fuck with whatever chemicals make us a little loopy.
Well, if I reacted to everything that pissed me off, I'd have
Right.
burned everything down. But I can't do that.
Yeah. Right. So yeah. That's really interesting.
One of the things also, like as far as the female perspective is concerned, one of the things we have as females, being of ethnic, being a woman of color, is that either you are an Aunt Jemima or you're a housekeeper or you're a whore. So one of the things, because I am a nice, attractive looking woman, I'm always meant that I'm a whore. I always have to put myself in the defense and say, no, I'm not a whore. And especially with the police, when the police approach me, the first thing they will say, you're coming from a go-go club, and I'm looking at them, no, what you talking about, but I am perceived as a whore. And that's something that we as women of color have to either, if you're good looking or you've got fashion, you're a whore, or you are a domestic worker. And it's always something like, you always got to put myself in like, okay, here's the police. Okay, how am I going to get my mind? Because I know he's going to come out with the wrong way, treat me the wrong way. And,
Hey, Howard, Janice shared a story about she's got a solo show. I don't mean to speak for you, Janice, but it was very powerful. And it's, can I share with Howard what you shared a little bit?
Well, you all know, yes.
Yeah. I mean, everybody else knows, right? But she's dealt with or is dealing with multiple personality disorder. And it's really interesting. And so hopefully we'll do this again and you can hear more of it, because Howard's a solo show guy too. And a talented dude. And yeah, I just think that you guys would there's some overlap with some of the stuff. I know Howard doesn't deal with that particular disorder, but nonetheless, I think there's some.
Now, before you make that statement, no, I don't. I'm not MPD.
Right.
But enough has happened so that there's enough fractured parts of me that there are actual voices who've taken charge at given points in my life. And one of the things I dealt with in therapy for all those years was just letting the other parts and the other voices, I know, I have to go now, letting the other voices know that it's okay. I don't need you now. But there's more to come, but I do have to get off now. I apologize.
All right, Howard, thanks for coming.
Nice to the rest of you.
Take care, my friend.
As always, you too.
All right, buddy. See you.
Bye-bye.
That's cool, Janice. It sounded like he knows some of the vocabulary that I don't know, just by what he said.
Thank you so much, Sean, for sharing that.
Yeah. Howard's a good man. He's got a rich history.
Thank you for this format.
Yeah.
Really enlightening. This is really risk taking in a very safe environment, and I thank you for that. Sure. And thank you so much for everyone for sharing this story. Was so good that I feel that I'm not alone. I feel that I'm not alone, and that's empowering. Thank you.
Yes. Any other words before we depart? Not rushing anybody off. It's been 90 minutes, and I don't think Mary Jo or Corey have a sort of formal story they want to share. I know, but you shared a bunch, which has been great.
Yeah, that was very, Corey, thank you. Because one thing about men of color, they're very private when it comes to the issue of racism. And I thank you, Corey, for sharing that.
Not Corey.
What is it?
Corey's got a lot to say.
Yeah.
At least in my experience I guess I only know you through story, not the other worlds of Toastmasters and stuff. By the way, if I know that you're probably not looking for speech topics or speech ideas, but what you said, something about the short-sightedness, I think that was it short-sighted?
Nearsightedness.
That's a speech. Just because the speeches sort of need that like pop.
Yeah.
That real like clear short. That's a speech. I don't know what it might look like. I don't know if you've written it, but
I have a Moleskine that I take with me everywhere.
Right. Yeah,
I don't know if everybody else does this, but I never leave the house without pen and paper, and I constantly am writing things down. if so here's a quick thing. The universe will talk to you. So as long as you are open to it, the universe will keep on feeding you. So I keep writing.
Good. Yeah.
If you've ever had the idea that, or seen something on television that you were like, I had that idea. Well, the reason why you don't have that idea is because you didn't write that son of a gun down and it went to
Just do
somebody
something
else.
with it. Right.
And the moment that you write it down and you take it as yours, it's yours. And then you play with it however you see fit. But every day, I'm constantly jotting down concepts that are coming to me. So do that, and you're never going to run out of material.
I use my phone. I'll like do audios. I'll do audios. It's just easier than writing down. My issue sometimes is taking the audio and then transferring it somewhere that I might revisit it. But yeah, no, that's right. That's great.
I want to thank Kat for that insight of choice. That was very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the choice. And
So,
very thank you for that story of your story about walking down the street and looking at humanity and not looking at a threat. That's very refreshing. Thank you.
Sometimes you just, I always approach, I try to be cautious, especially if I'm in commercial areas and stuff at night, which, when you go out to places, sometimes you end up in. But I just try to approach anybody that I see. Of course, now it's harder because you have masks on, but I try to approach everybody with a smile. I just think a smile diffuses a lot. It's a stranger. You're both getting in the same elevator. I smile.
I love it. I love it.
Now, of course, it's a little harder to do with only the eyes, but,
Yeah.
What I do is just do a little nod.
Yeah.
Something.
Well, thank you anyway.
Yeah. I'm going to try to use this space moving forward as like, my thing is stories. So I think that's the sort of always the bedrock of it. But I think it could be very interesting. Tonight was helpful for me in that, like, using these stories as sort of jumping off points for conversation. And so we'll see. So, and so with that, if you have any feedback, it could be now or after. Janice, I'll connect with you on Facebook so we have an easier way to communicate. But in terms of like format, I'm curious because I'd like to do this at least, every other week at a minimum because I think it's important,
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Sean,
Thank you, God.
one thing that women that I remember I was told, like, maybe like in the 80s or 90s, if you feel that you're in danger, Sean's not going to like this. To act crazy, to just start acting crazy, like screaming and yelling obscenities.
Yeah, why don't you think I like that? I'm cool with that.
You don't like people negating mental health.
No. But I think I understand what you're saying with that. And it's, that's safety. That's survival, man.
Right.
I don't think that's ripping on mental illness, mental health, whatever we're talking. Yeah, no. I don't like stupid shit that people say that are fucking clueless and they don't listen and they don't give a shit and they think they know stuff, which is ironic given what I just shared about being white and thinking I know a lot about a lot of things. Yeah, the irony is not lost on me. And I'm okay with calling people out on it because, I got people in my life who every day post on their Facebook page or whatever you want to call it, like, mental health is really important, NAMI, and here's the 1-800 number. And I'm like, motherfucker, why don't you check in with me? That's a hell of a lot more important than posting. It's cool that you're doing that. Post your NAMI stuff. NAMI is like the National Association of Mental Illness. But you're not. So anyway, I get weird.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Sean. It's like oh, that's your problem. Yeah,
I'm doing the right thing. It's like, but are you really like in the? I don't.
Yeah.
Sure,
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Anyway, thank you also for being, being open to this space because truly, I wasn't thinking this when I created this or even going into it, but like, I am this, and I'm not asking for pity, just to be super clear. White dudes right now, you know, like shut the fuck up, right? Kind of. And so I appreciate a space where I get to share equally and you listen. And that's not really why I did this, but yeah, I'm confused sometimes as to what I can or can't say or should or shouldn't say. And
Sean, I think you are fine in speaking what you feel, right?
right.
I mean, you're talking about your experience with mental illness. That's not the same thing as I have no idea why these uppity people over here want to have the same rights that I've got. That's an entirely different conversation,
right.
right? And I'd probably give you the side eye if you were doing that. I'd be
I
like,
don't think I've gotten that from you yet.
no,
We'll see what happens moving forward. Okay.
Please aim high.
You never know, though. Yeah. Hey, if I want it, bring it. It's fair.
There's a difference to you sharing a real genuine vulnerability as opposed to complaining about the whole world that you knew has suddenly changed, right? Like, these people want to vote. They want to live in my same neighborhood. You mean they want pig's feet in my or ham hocks in the grocery store? What the hell? Right. Don't they know my zip code? No, that's an entire.
Well, what's interesting around this idea of mental health, and it does bleed into all this other stuff, right? About our identity and our color and all this other. When people are complaining, and I'm not saying you shouldn't complain. I think the biggest thing in my life, for me, feels more than being white or being a man. When people are upset about their life being difficult now, I think, whether you like it or not, that is my life. Like, I'm dealing with depression and anxiety. That's my fucking life. Now, you don't have to give a shit. But so when I hear that, it's not what you were just saying, interestingly. It's more like, oh, okay, you know, not as a dick. I'm not being a dick. I'm not like, fuck you, now you get it. But I'm like, this whole thing has been challenging, but not that. It's always hard. I'm always dealing with suicidal ideation. I am. So does this amp it up a bit? Sure. It's challenging, but so it's that's my lens often. That's my lens.
But what's wonderful if you talk about it.
Yeah.
If you ever been to an AA meeting and you talk about it and you find that you're not alone in it. Because the thing about mental illness, or any addiction is the feeling of loneliness. You know, but once you have, when Howard he said, and he was saying, yeah, I got voices. I said, yes, now you understand.
Right.
You know, yes, I'm not alone. Now, you know, I'm crazy, but, you know, at least you understand it, you know. And that was refreshing. That was so refreshing. And I thank you because part of, it's called therapy talk. So I'm walking away feeling more sure, feeling more like self-love. And I thank you for that. I thank you. This is very important because people don't talk about it.
Right.
It.
Right. No, they don't really often talk about it. Corey and I were making weird faces just because it just happened to be last night. Was it last night, Corey?
It was last night.
I shared a story
last night with Sean.
My experience going to AA and realizing that I was maybe not an alcoholic, but that it became very clear that my issue was loneliness. And what I got from that group was that feeling of connection that I really wanted and needed.
Need that.
So that you mentioned that was really interesting because we just 24 hours ago,
yeah.
Right.
The universe is talking.
Exactly. Exactly.
Corey, I've got my moleskin. I gotta boom. All right.
I gotta go, guys.
All right. Bye, Janice.
Kat.
Take care, Janice.
Thank you. I'll see you next time.
All right, Janice. Take care. All right, Corey, Mary Jo, Kat, thanks.